any objections to the motion being made to approve the minutes of April 14th?
No.
Okay, Marla, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you, Marla. Now we'll move on down to correspondence and reports. The first item is a report from the on-street parking committee. Janita has a report for us. Give her the report.
Wasn't sure exactly how this was going to work, so this.
That's how everybody out in TV land hears you.
Very good. I wasn't sure exactly what you were expecting from me today, so hopefully I won't ramble on. I wanted to congratulate Mayor Nicholson for when he called this committee together. He came to our first meeting, and he gave us a job to do. He said, your job is to come up with something that can pass the city council. So right away we knew we couldn't swing one way we couldn't swing all the way to everything's allowed, we couldn't swing all the way to nothing's allowed. We had to go somewhere in the middle. And so that was quite a task for us to come up with. And what we did is we chose safety. Everyone talks about safety when it comes to on-street parking. And we kind of narrowed that down to narrow roads. That trailers parked on narrow roads is much more of a safety concern than it is on wider roads, so we narrowed that down to narrow roads. And we were able to get a map of the city which defined different widths of streets. So we were able to look at we could see on the map what we could see driving around town. And guess what? Mountain View is the highest density of narrow streets, and we all know that from driving around Rawlins. That's where trailers parked on streets tends to be a problem. Once we did that, we started looking into ordinances around the country. We started looking into what are safety concerns, how are those things defined. Came up with something out of the urban systems. Somebody that said that a traffic lane needs to be 10 feet wide. So we thought, well, that's a good defining thing. That's a hard number, 10 feet wide. And we thought, well, in Rawlins, people are nice, and we don't drive that fast, so we'll make it 8 feet wide. And we'll say that, and then we came up with the center line thing. And so we would like to see 2 safe lanes of traffic on both sides of the center line. So have you seen our recommendations? Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. Most likely.
Okay. So the committee came up with 3 actions, and of course, like I mentioned, the Mayor Nicholson gave us a pretty hard task to do. So our first action is the ordinance we recommend to be added to the existing Title 10 ordinances is no person shall park an RV, a camper trailer, or its load on any street for any purpose, so that any part of any such RV extends into the street to a point nearer than 8 feet from the center line thereof. Only streets less than 30 feet wide will be of concern, taking into account average width of RVs. Exceptions would be contractors who need to park trailers at the time they need to perform work, and a 72-hour period for residents to load and unload RVs, trailers, and campers. So that was that. If you take the average width of a RV, and you have a 30-foot road, so you want 20 feet in the middle, and so that's 20. Then we have the average width is, I think, is 27 feet across, and so you could, anything over 30 feet wide is not going to be a problem. It's just the math. But we felt like that would give some increased safety to those narrow rolling streets. So that's the ordinance, that's the recommendation that we had. And that recommendation passed our committee, 4 yes votes and 3 no votes. Do you have any questions concerning that?
I do.
Okay.
So you're defining the roadway as 8 feet. U.S. Department of Transportation defines a roadway as 9 feet to 12 feet.
Yes.
Okay. If the street is 30 feet wide and you take up 16 feet of it with street surface or unimpeded roadway, that leaves you 7 feet on either side.
Yes, and that's where the center line, the definition of center line comes into play there.
Right. if the average vehicle in the United States is 6 feet 7 inches wide, which
Mhm.
it is, that leaves you but 5 inches before you're in the lane.
Mm-hmm.
If you park 5 inches from your curb, you are now impeding the roadway.
Yes.
Okay? Title 12, Section 24,
Okay.
010 says you may not impede any roadway. That's our own ordinance.
Okay.
So we need to look at how that ordinance is written, because the street in front of my house is 29 feet wide. Which side of the street does not get to park on the street?
Yes.
So we will have that problem.
Well, I think with what she's come up with, if the street's under 30 feet, then there's no trailer parking. So if your street's 29, then
There's no parking.
There's no
Not-
trailer parking.
Yeah, there would be
No
no
parking.
parking, period.
You can't park a vehicle.
No, no, no. Our-
Because if it's over, if
Well,
the
they're talking
vehicle,
about just RV.
right, but we have an ordinance already that says you cannot impede traffic. You're impeding traffic if your vehicle is sitting 7 feet from a sidewalk. That's easy to do if you park 5 inches from your curb, because your mirrors are now in the lane of traffic. And you're basing it on an 8-foot lane, and the U.S. Department of Transportation clearly states that it's a 9-foot lane is a single lane of traffic, because 6 feet, 9 feet is only 1.5 feet on either side. I don't know about you, I don't like driving 1.5 feet from another vehicle.
Right, and Mr. Singer, this just reflects the job that we were given.
No, I'm just
So-
saying,
so
so
we- I mean,
part of our ordinances, we also have that, which is 12, which involves the impediment of traffic on a roadway.
Yes, sir, and we looked at the Title 10 ordinances quite a bit.
I'm letting you know.
So that's very interesting to me, because that actually speaks to our action number 2.
Okay.
So, does anybody else have a question? Okay, action number 2, which passed with 5 votes and 0 no votes, is the committee recommends cities start an educational campaign explaining to citizens what the Title 10 ordinances, and I would include Title 12, are and how they are enforced. Specifically, citizens need to know that these ordinances have complaint-driven enforcement. We believe that this would do much to relieve the frustration and tension over this issue. Now, complaint enforcement is a term that our committee made up. I have no idea what people really call it, but I have no idea. But we call it when you call and you complain. That's complaint-driven enforcement, and then enforcement begins to happen. So that's what we're referring to there. So I think you're bringing up a good point, where people need to know what those ordinances are, they need to have them explained, and they need to know that the cops aren't going to bust somebody for not parking correctly. If it's bothering you, you need to call and get the process started. Any questions? And then our third action that we recommend had 4 yes votes and 1 no vote. The committee recommends that our proposed ordinance be placed on a ballot for Rawlins citizens to decide. This is a reflection of people on our committee are tired of this issue coming up. They're tired of it. They don't want to ever hear about this issue again. Let the voters vote, and you can say, we're done. The citizens had their say. Can we move on to other things? So those are our 3 recommendations to you.
Okay. I appreciate the time that you guys have put into this, and we will now take all this into consideration and discuss it amongst the council and decide the direction that we want to go.
Very good. That's all that we ask.
Councilman Espinoza?
Yeah, Alliance, Nebraska has a pretty nice ordinance on trailers, RVs type thing. It'd be worth maybe taking a look at that.
Okay. Yeah, we can
Where's it?
definitely-
Alliance?
We looked pretty extensively at Wyoming cities, and so Saratoga doesn't allow any on-street parking. We looked at Cheyenne. I believe Cheyenne and Cody both had this center line thing. And as Mr. Singer pointed out, we narrowed ours down. Nobody, I think, would say that an 8-foot lane is safe, but we're working to get something that can pass. So,
Well, and I don't want to commend you on that, because in the problem we have several citizens from Rawlins, that it's going to affect one way or another, whatever direction we go, and trying to hit a neutral, somewhat of a neutral ground like what you came up with the 8 foot, I I think, is doing just that. Going from what the national standard is, narrowing that a little bit to try to appease certain areas, so that there's just gonna be certain areas in town that are affected, but still gonna allow other areas for parking. I think it's kind of looking both directions there, so.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson, for bringing that up. One of the things we talked about in the committee was that if some ordinance is passed and is enforced, that people be allowed a year to, if it's going to affect them, they have a year to acquire a new property, to sell that home, and to move on. So that they're not, they're not, on day one, they're not being given a $200 fine or whatever. This is going to be a problem for you. You might want to do something about it. You have a year.
Okay. All right, well, we appreciate it.
We appreciate
Mr. Mayor, are they asking for a motion at this time, or?
No, this is just under correspondence reports. We'll now have to sit down amongst us and see if we want to do something with it.
But are you going to put it on the agenda now, or?
No.
No, this was just information to us.
Okay, it seems like to me that we got a committee that did a pretty good job, that we would take their recommendation and put it on one of our meetings so we could vote on it.
Right, and that's exactly what we'll decide, not necessarily tonight, but possibly on the next meeting, we'll put it up so we can have some discussion on it.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you, Marty.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Janine.
for your service.
Okay, now we'll move on down to department monthly reports. Does anybody have any comments or questions in regards to the department reports? Okay. Now we'll move on down to the agenda. Item A, the approval of tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hirsch?
I move to approve the April 21, 2020 City Council agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Councilman Espinoza seconds that. Do we have any objections to that motion that was made?
None?
Okay. Mara, would you open online voting, please? I forgot we're training a new secretary tonight.
What time he answers?
Online voting is open. Now we know you have some other job you can do. Yeah, I'm still training.
What are we voting on?
The approval of the agenda?
Agenda. Oh, approval of the agenda. You got it. Okay. I can't hear anything you guys are saying.
Me neither.
All right, so we're voting on the agenda. Did it come up on your screen to vote, Marty?
Yeah, it did.
Okay,
Online voting is closed and the motion passes with 7 yeas.
all right. Now we'll move on down to board appointments, business. An ordinance, third and final reading, amending Rawlins Municipal Code Title 2-20, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Durst?
I move to approve on third and final reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Rawlins Municipal Code Title 2.20 Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
I'll second.
Councilman Sanger seconds that. Okay, discussion.
I'm just here if
I'm
you guys
not-
have any
We're
questions.
just in the Danielle section now.
Okay.
Hey, I got a light one tonight.
Does anybody have any questions for Danielle?
No.
None.
Okay, then, Justin, would you open online
Thank
voting,
you.
please?
Thanks, Danielle.
Online voting is open.
Can you hear me better, Nabari? Or Councilmember Martinez?
barely, but I'm getting it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Now move on down to new business. First item is the approval of payroll. Can I get a motion?
Mayor?
Councilman Sanger?
I move to approve the March 29th, 2020 through April 11th, 2020 payroll register in the amount of $206,881.65.
Second?
Councilman Durst seconds that. Is there any objections to the motion that was made? If not, Dustin, would you open online voting? please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Next item is the approval of accounts payable.
Mayor,
Councilman Singer.
I move to approve the accounts payable register for the period of April 3rd, 2020 to April 16th, 2020 in the amount of $369,891.92.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, we have a second from Councilman Espinoza. Any objections to the motion that was made? Okay. Dustin, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay. The next item is to reject an RFP janitorial services. Get a motion? Councilman Durst.
I move to reject all bids and rebid the janitorial, excuse me. I move to reject all bids and requests for proposals and authorize staff to repost the RFP for janitorial services.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second.
Will second that? Danielle, would you like to fill us in?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and City Council, staff worked to bid out janitorial services at a couple of our city facilities, City Hall, the Police Department, the Rec Center, and then the golf course, which would be seasonal. So what we were hoping is the Rec Center would be more frequent in the winter when they're busier, and then a little bit less in the summer, but they would swap out and start going to the golf course. We did receive one proposal for City Hall and the Police Department. It is our belief, we could be completely wrong, that the COVID-19 has affected the bids. We were not able to do a walkthrough of the facilities like we had planned. We had scheduled a pre-bid meeting to make sure we're on the same page. I did meet with the individual that bid on the 2 locations, and they did look at those just individually. But we would like to put this proposal out again. We think there would be a benefit to this, rather than having our own employees, and potentially a cost savings. Once we actually get that information, we would obviously be able to provide you with more accurate, but that was kind of our intent. So what we would like to do at this point, though, is reject. I would like to put it out again. I do think that we are going to wait, you think? Is that what we talked
Get a
about?
little bit of time to clear up.
Yeah, I just think with everything going on with the virus, we'd like that to settle a little bit. We worked with the county to do this, and they were awesome in helping us prepare it, and it's been successful for them. So we're hoping we can go that route eventually too.
Okay.
But if you guys have questions, I will try to answer them. This is new, so.
I guess the only question that I would think to ask would go to legal. I mean, can we just say we think because of this extenuating circumstance, we want to rebid it because of that, and it's no big deal then?
Absolutely. We reserve the right to reject all bids. And in this instance, you didn't have a complete bid package. You only had, I think, 2 of the facilities. So absolutely.
Okay.
And I have been in touch with the bidder, who is aware that I was making this recommendation tonight. I did let them know that we appreciated their interest, and it does sound like, and I hope this still does not change in the future, that they are interested in bidding again. So she's been really great to talk to and work with, so hopefully we'll get another bid from her.
Okay. Any other questions for Danielle?
None in the back?
Okay. Dustin, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Danielle.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you, Dustin. Now we'll move on down to item D, to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Rawlins and the Memorial Hospital of Carbon County. Councilman Singer?
I move to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Rawlins and Memorial Hospital of Carbon County to enhance and clarify the delivery of emergency medical services and transport.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Councilman Durst, second that? Dustin, anything you need to explain to us, or?
So you guys have the MOU in front of you guys. Several months ago,
when I first took over the situation, the council asked that we work with the hospital to get some reimbursements on this because we spend a significant amount of money on training and staff and everything like that to be able to do this. And this agreement, in discussions, myself and Chief Rutherford worked on this along with City Attorney Bach and the hospital. And we worked through this, and we, from all sides, feel this is a fair agreement on reimbursement. Due to hospital-related items, they have other issues when it comes to collections, billing, and they have a lot of things that they have to do on their side, so it's not something we can go full price. But this is a fair reimbursement to us in our eyes, so.
So that was gonna be my only question, is both sides are now
Both sides are.
comfortable, this isn't where we're gonna say, oh, we like this, and then they're gonna say, oh, well, that sucks. And
No.
Okay, cool.
No, we're good on both sides.
Any other questions for Dustin?
Thank you for doing that.
Okay. Dustin, would you open online?
I got
Oh, go ahead, Marty.
I have a question, and my question is this: does this ambulance belong to the city of Rawlins?
Yes.
Okay, and then how much are we gonna receive every time we use our city of Rawlins ambulance?
In the agreement, it details out,
It was 100
It's broken down based on what it's doing.
Barry, do you want me to read what it says?
It's on,
If it's in city, it's $100. If it's out of city but in county, it's $250. If it's out of city, out of county, but in state, it's $500. If it's out of state, it's $1 per mile.
So if somebody called in that's in the city of Rawlins, how much would they be paying to go to the hospital?
that's the hospital's decision on that, on what they bill. They handle all of that.
That's the problem. The amount they're charging is so dang high that they're using our ambulance to transport a citizen to the Carbon County Hospital, and then they charge a large amount, and yes, they give us a few bucks back. Are we getting our fair share out of that?
Yes. Some of the things you need to consider in that is, when you look at medical billing as a whole, the collection rate is significantly lower than a normal business. They have bad debt expense they have to take care of. They have other payments they have to make and different things like that. So while they do charge a higher rate, this is a fair compensation to us because we don't have to take care of the other items that they have to work with.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marty. Any other questions for Dustin?
none in the back.
Okay. Dustin, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
Smith or Linda Smith, are you there?
Oh, we're good.
There she is.
We got it. Thank you.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. Now move on down to a resolution to repeal resolution 08A-2014, adopting uniform bylaws for city boards and commissions, and resolution number 12C-2014, amending the uniform bylaws. Get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Okay, Councilwoman Wells.
I move to approve a resolution repealing resolution number 08A 2014 and resolution number 12C 2014, authorizing, adopting, and amending uniform bylaws for all municipal advisory boards and commissions effective upon approval.
Second?
We got seconded by Councilman Durst. Any questions or objections in that?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes,
Is
Barry.
this changing these bylaws, what it's doing is allowing these boards boards to change their bylaws to allow a person to serve on 2 boards. Does that sound right?
Well, it doesn't change their bylaws, it changes the resolution that we had in place that didn't allow 2 people, or 1 person to be on 2 boards. So it'll take that resolution away, allowing their, bylaws to govern their board, which their bylaws do not have anything in there that would stop a person from being on 2 boards.
Which means that if a person's serving on 1 board and applies for another, he could get on
Yes.
2 boards?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
All right.
None in the back?
Okay, Dustin, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 6 yeas, with Councilmember Martinez voting nay.
All right, thank you. Now move on down to executive session. If I could get a motion, please.
Honorable Mayor.
Councilman Sanger?
Now I can read it. I move that we go into executive session per Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405. Number 2, to consider the appointment, employment, right to practice, or dismissal of a public officer, professional person, or employee, or to hear complaints or charges brought against an employee, professional person, or officer, unless the employee, professional person, or officer requests a public hearing. The governing body may exclude from any public or private hearing during the examination of a witness any or all other witnesses in the matter being investigated. Following the hearing or executive session, the governing body may deliberate on its decision in executive session to consider or receive any information classified as confidential by law.
Can we get a second? Okay, we got a first.
What's that, Linda?
Yes. Any objections to the motion that was made to go into executive session? None? Then Dustin, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Thank you.